Welcome to the Bridge of Truth. About a month ago, I had the privilege and honor of presenting Sheikha Maryam's three-part series on her journeys through Africa, which helped me to launch the reboot of the Bridge of Truth. We were going to have a Q&A live follow-up on it, but she asked me if I could postpone it because of the holy time of Ramadan, which she wanted to properly observe. And I felt that that made sense to me, but it also made me think about the fact that I really didn't know that much about Ramadan, aside from what probably most of us in the Western world understand about it, that it is an Islamic holy time, and it usually only comes into our observation when some newscaster is mentioning that it's a reason for a conflict in the world to be postponed while Muslims can celebrate it. So I decided to do some research, and Sheikha Maryam said, that sounds like a great idea. I would really like to let people know more about the spiritual significance of Ramadan, which I think in the West gets overlooked. This is how Encyclopedia Britannica starts off their description of Ramadan. Islamic tradition states that it was during Ramadan, on the night of power, commemorated on one of the last 10 nights of Ramadan, usually the 27th, that God revealed to the Prophet Muhammad the Quran, Islam's holy book, as a guidance for the people. For Muslims, Ramadan is a period of introspection, communal prayer in the mosque, and reading of the Quran. God forgives the past sins of those who observe the holy month with fasting, prayer, and faithful intention. So one of the things that really stood out, even in that brief description for me, that it was the moment at which God revealed to Muhammad the holy book of the Quran. And I thought to myself how similar that was to the other two great Western religions, where in the Old Testament, God revealed to Moses the Ten Commandments, and in the New Testament, Jesus reveals the Sermon on the Mount. And to think of all of the holy books being started through some revelation from God would immediately, for me, connote its significance as an important spiritual practice. So I'd like to welcome Sheikha Maryam. Thank you so much for deciding to join me and to agreeing to do this. And I really look forward to hearing your guidance. To tell us more and perhaps pray with us, and anything you care to share about your experiences. I remember I know as we were setting this up, you told me that you've been honoring Ramadan for 45 years, which I found to be extraordinary. And I actually encourage people to look at the part one of our journey through Africa, where Sheikha Maryam takes the time to describe her whole spiritual journey that led her to the point where she actually started making those trips. So Sheikha, thank you so much. Please introduce yourself, start with a prayer if you'd like, or however you would wish.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Peace and blessings be upon everyone in this blessed circle of souls. We are here assembling again to share the light of God, which has been bestowed upon us individually and collectively. This is a circle of light as ordained by the one of infinite light and mercy. For all beings created by the one most merciful to come closer to the source of mercy and wisdom, grace, light. So we have been working together, Al and I, for I think about 11 years, just sharing the light and learning about the messages that have been descended upon humanity throughout the ages that each one of us may become conscious of. So in my journey, as we've spoken of before, I was guided around the world many, many times over. I was born in Hollywood in a very liberal Jewish family, and the inspiration of my family was just perfectly harmonious with the Sufi masters that I would then meet. And the essential teaching is that we must love all lives as our own. Therefore, when I speak about the practices that I've been guided to observe, to enter into, to dive within, to the ocean of light that I have been guided into, it is not exclusive and it's not personal. It's a collective sharing. When, as the sheikhs have done with me throughout my journey, light has been descended upon my heart and soul, step by step, moment to moment. And this is the path such as you are showing in the video called the Bridge of Truth. So each one of us, travelers, is traveling on a bridge of truth, and we are seeking for the source of truth, for the being of truth that brought us into existence in order to dive into truth itself, in order to surrender to the divine guidance. And that's what we will be sharing as usual. In the context of Ramadan, as you said, it's a practice that I've been doing for 45 years or so. That's how I counted it. I think it's like that. I mentioned to you that before I was a Muslim, I was living in Berkeley and I had a cabin in the woods. And I would go there on a regular basis. And very important in my practice of being there was fasting. So I think that God placed within my spirit, within my consciousness, a love of fasting. And so I think we'll be exploring what makes fasting useful and beautiful and meaningful rather than just being very difficult to observe, in the sense that according to Islamic practice, you have to eat quite early in the day before the first morning prayers. It changes according to when the time of the prayer is, but you have to at least, eat before prayer time, and then you break your fast when the sun sets. So understanding this, we are now in a period of time, it would be 30 days, and in the context of our community, 10 more days are added. That's a 40-day period of not eating during the day. And how could we feel so extremely happy about this practice instead of feeling deprived? I think that's what we'll be discovering, we'll be exploring. That in such a way that will make it interesting and compelling in a certain way for people who are contemplating the possibility of going into a deep fast.
Sheikha, what makes this religious fast different from the type of fast that people would perhaps normally participate in?
Yes, that's a good question. One thing, it's a command of God. It was given. It's a gift from the one most merciful and wise to humanity. I believe in other traditions as well. Fasting is a part of the practice. And
Yes.
in this, in the case of Islam, it's an extensive fast, as was ordained. it's ordained by God for many different levels of significance. So that's what I think we'll be exchanging here. We'll be exploring here. What are the purposes of the fast in the context of Islam? And I want to mention also that Islam, the word Islam can be translated as is peace. Islam is peace. So the practice that I've been exposed to throughout my years as a Muslim has been really resonating with peace. It's been a source of spiritual peace and guidance, as opposed to what may have been spoken of in a totally different context, where some people will be manifesting some form of terrorism and calling it Islam. But as far as we know, with deep certainty, Islam is peace and not war. If there was a war, it would be within ourselves. What we call jihad is a war within ourselves to purify ourselves of everything but the mercy of God, the light of God, the divine qualities. So I think that we want to focus on that process of purification and understand its value, its significance, its helpfulness to us, as opposed to it being harsh. For me, you can get tired during the day. You feel hungry from time to time. You feel weakened. All of that is actually a blessing, because it helps us understand people who are more hungry than we are, people who have less access to food. So a very major part of this process is the development of compassion, of caring for other lives. And then what else can we do to help them? That's another real point to understand in the context of Ramadan.
Yeah, that's really extraordinary. There's a couple of things that you said in particular before you get into the that part of your discussion, but you talked about jihad, and I also talked in my introduction about how there's so many misconceptions that we get as a result of the way that these terms are introduced to us in the context of war, in the context of suffering, and very rarely do I hear the word jihad talked about in the sense that you mean it. And I'm really grateful that we're having the opportunity to perhaps dispel some of these misconceptions and to share the truth of it, because all these religions, I mean, they're really the source of these religions. If you know the individual that initiated them, Jesus, Moses, and the Prophet Muhammad, these were extraordinarily loving and courageous people. And I know that I think I read here that that during this time God purifies the sins, and that's a tradition that's also celebrated in Christianity, where there's one particular Sunday of the year that in that observance of that Sunday you can have all of your sins forgiven, and to think that all the religions have these tremendous parallels that have absolutely nothing to do with the way that they're often used or manipulated or interpreted. So please continue, Sheikha, from where you were, and if you want to respond to what I just said, that would be nice, or if you want to just continue with your other portion of the talk, that'd be great too.
Well, as each of us contemplate the possibility of a deep purification process for ourselves, we can see within us things that we need to purify. I think part of the process that's very crucial is self-awareness. It's awakening to the needs that we have to be purified, to be uplifted, to make the spiritual journey from one level, we call it in Arabic one maqam, to the next maqam, step by step. Okay, and what you said was very relevant, that in whatever religion you're following, you would, when you go deep into the spirituality of your practice, part of it will definitely be to forgive, to ask for forgiveness. But we also say, ask for forgiveness and forgive.
Yes.
You ask for forgiveness and forgive. So the spiritual practices of that, even as human beings, we encounter in the desire to uplift our state of consciousness are very crucial and very relevant to our discussion and to our practice. So I'm going to read some things that I wrote down from a book that I found sitting in my room that has some beautiful points relevant to this. And I want you to make sure that you can hear it properly. And I think you can, just a moment. And then we can break it down or discuss it at any moment. Any moment of the discussion we can stop reading and talk. Okay, share.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is from a book called Important Lessons for Ramadan by Sheikh Abdur Razak Al-Abad. It's called Welcoming the Month of Ramadan. Verily, from the great blessings of Allah upon His servants is that He has given His servants numerous opportunities to perform acts of worship in which there are many acts of obedience. Offenses are canceled. Sins and evil deeds are forgiven. Good deeds are multiplied. Mercy descends, and many magnificent gifts are granted. If we stay focused on those words alone, it's so vast and so amazing. You know, what an amazing result of taking some time off from eating in order to serve God more deeply. That so much can happen in the middle of it, all as He wishes, as He ordains and blesses us.
In Catholicism, the Lord's Prayer, it's, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So yeah, the commonality in the prayer and the responsibility to forgive and be forgiven is common in all the great Western religions. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to throw that in because I felt it was kind of interesting to note that at this point.
Indeed, from the best of those seasons and most noble with Allah is the blessed month of Ramadan. Allah, the Most High, said, "The month of Ramadan, in which was revealed the Quran, the Holy Quran, a guidance for mankind, and clear proofs for the guidance, and the criterion between right and wrong." That's from Surah Baqarah 185. How noble a month this is, and how great a season, a month of good and blessings, a month of fasting and prayer, a month of mercy, forgiveness, and emancipation from the fire, a month of generosity, forgiveness, giving, spending, doing good, and benevolence. So that's an introduction to this beautiful month. And I'm going to reiterate that we might think of it as a challenge to have to, from dawn to dusk, not eat anything. And when you understand how many blessings descend upon us in the context of that process, it's worth exploring. It's worth trying it, and once I began to do it, I have not stopped. My son Isa, when he was 4.5, we were here in this very house, and he was coming down the stairs the first day of Ramadan, and he said, he was only 4.5 years old, but he said, "Mom, I don't know if I can last through the fast." It was like 5 minutes before break fast. And so I said to him, step by step, I said, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim." We seek refuge from the dark side, the shaitan, and in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. I said that to him as the small boy that he was, and he got it. He got the strength from those words to make it down the stairs and break fast. He didn't eat. He did not break his fast, and this is now, he told me, his 31st year of fasting. And for me, it's the 45th, okay? So it's like, it's not just the simplest thing in the world. It could be considered a challenge, but the challenge has great blessings associated and then that result from simply surrendering to the command of God to do it. Allah said it to us. He gave it to us for a very deep purpose. We have to do it to find out how it affects our spiritual transformation, how it affects our heart and soul and our mind too, and there is something which is said that at this holy time, the gates of paradise are open and the gates of hell or the fire are closed, and the dark forces, the dark energies are chained up. So this process of receiving many blessings and being awakening to new and deeper levels of consciousness of the divine and the purpose of our very existence, why we were brought into existence, as we have said before, is for ibadah, which means service, worship, and love of God. That's clearly stated in the Quran, as our purpose. Well, the more that we fast and serve other lives and pray through the night, we don't eat during the day, and then we pray into the depths of the night. As we are doing that, we come to understand what our purpose really is, what ibadah is, how to manifest it, how to experience the deep inner truth of our being in this context. And also our relationship with God, of course.
Yeah, you said a number of things that I want to follow up on. First of all, when you talked about what struck me, when you mentioned that it's a time where the gates of, I guess, light open and the darkness closes. And I found that to be an extraordinary statement, because it seems like when people who do practice some level of faith, whether it's Islam or Christianity, Judaism, when you're approaching that time where God is going to be expecting some sacrifice in Christianity, it's right now we're in the time of Lent. It seems like the dark forces amp up their attempt to keep you from following through. Even just in the course of us doing this discussion today, with Ramadan starting in a few days, I really felt like that. I felt like I was being attacked, or something was trying to keep me from doing this. And I think I mention that only because I think other people might be experiencing things and not really understanding why that's happening or what the source of that is. And for us to discuss this, I think may help them in some level. And the other question I'd like to ask you, more specifically about the fasting, because you kind of alluded to this, is how did it transform you after all those years? Because you're talking about a practice that extends more than half your lifetime. How does that change a person? Not just in terms of, the discipline of fasting, which anybody can do, but to fast for a spiritual reason. I hope you can share a little bit more about that, because it seems like Asa now is having that as well. Or Isa, I'm sorry if I got his pronounced it correct.
Yes. Fasting is one of the dimensions of Islam, and it's lifted up in this period of time as a strengthening of our devotion. This strengthens our devotion. And it's because of our relationship with the one who's asking us to do it. Even regular prayers that go on day after day, it can't be separated. The fasting cannot be separated from the other practices that we do throughout our life. Now, it's how we come into this state of awareness that is inspirational to our development. And for me, it had everything to do with the descent of God's grace upon me that guided me throughout my life. It's not one particular thing, one practice, or even one religion. It's following the lead, the guidance of the one of infinite grace that brings me step by step, breath by breath, closer and closer to union with the guide, the one who created us so mercifully and is guiding us to fulfill our purpose as he wishes, as he wills. So each of the things that we do, and I would extend that to people practicing other different dimensions of the guidance, that the key is, does this practice bring us back to our Lord, pleasing him and pleased? They say pleased and well-pleasing. So this is what we're searching for based upon everything we've read in the Quran that is guiding us on the path. We could take any passage of the Quran or of another revelation, because according to our understanding, all of the messengers, that includes those that you mentioned and those you did not mention, all of the prophets and messengers, from our very deep understanding, are part of a line, a continuous revelation. It's not one, you can't separate them. They're all united in the passage of divine truth, in the transmission, I should say, in the transmission of divine teaching. They're all here. They've appeared on the earth as Allah willed, so that humanity could be guided in the direction of light, on the path of light. So I think that's what we're just focusing on. Each dimension of the revelation is going to keep us focused in the right way, not go astray. We say, lead us on the path, on the straight path, and don't let us go astray. So all of the things that God has revealed to me personally, but it includes everyone else who's getting the guidance too, are those things, as it happened to Isa that day when he says, I don't think I can do this, and then suddenly he realizes absolutely he can, and that has continued throughout the years. Once you realize that you can do it, that is a clear sign to you that you should do it. We can do it. And it wouldn't be something we made up. It's not like, I think this is a good idea, so I think I'll do it. I've heard people say that on context, I had a message and it said, do this. Well, I have messages too, but most of all, I'm listening to the divine messengers, and to the divine giver of all messages, the one of infinite light and mercy. So now, as we're on a journey, we're travelers on a journey, and the guide is revealing the signs to us. This is what the Quran says: behold the signs of Allah in the horizons and in yourself. And that's a very key term for what the journey is all about. It's beholding the signs and then surrendering to the guidance. This is a step. This is one dimension of what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just kind of absorbing what you're saying and trying to figure out where to go with this. What else besides fasting would you consider to be a significant part of Ramadan that makes it as special as it is?
So there's fasting and prayer and charity. All of these are elements. So during the day you fast, And at night, we do extensive, more and more prayers into the night. It could be individual, but it's very often collective. We often, we live right across the street from a wonderful wonderful mosque. And there we have what's called Taraweeh prayers, special night prayers. And people can go into it deeper and deeper. There's something at the end of Ramadan, 10 days, called itikaf, which is more deeply internal. So that's the prayer, dimension. Having compassion for everyone who's going through unfathomable challenges right now is also inherent in our practice. And any way that we can manifest that charity is inherent in the practice of Ramadan. So as I said before, when we have a little bit of difficulty because we can't eat during the day, right? For many hours it could be 10 hours, or whatever, 8, 9, 10 hours, right? What about the people who don't have food to eat, or who very rarely get food to eat? And the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was known to be so tremendously generous with humanity. Although he himself may have had very little at that time, he would give whatever he had to those in need. And I just think we have to learn how to share whatever we have with our fellow beings. That has to do with food. It has to do with love. It has to do with knowledge, grace, wisdom, and whatever has been given to us by our Lord that will benefit others as it has been benefiting us. That's why I practically always say yes to you when you ask me, can we make an interview? I'd say yes. I will be here with you for this purpose, because it's not for ourselves alone. It's for all humanity, and even, to love all lives. That includes animals, trees, the birds in the sky, just to share the love with all beings, as God does. How beautifully did he create everything in such a way that it would be sustained by his grace. And so these are all lessons that we learn. And I would say it's all about loving God more and more, and surrendering and doing what he wants us to do. And I think in the very early days when we embraced Islam in Jerusalem, 1 month in the year, we weren't quite ready to start fasting. I was with Sheikh Nuruddin Durki and Haja Noura and a few other small group of people. But by the next year, we were absolutely ready, and it's just always been like that. That it took a little bit of time to grasp this beauty, this truth that was calling us into our deep levels of the journey, deeper and deeper levels of the journey to God. And then after that, there was never a question. Once you get it, you can't let it go. Now, some people do. People have embraced Islam, or they were born in Islam, and then they go out of it. Some people just get up and leave. That's a serious, problem, I would say, for them. But it's not a problem that I can relate to, because I wouldn't think of entertaining that possibility ever. And that's because every minute of the journey just brings more blessing into our heart. How can we leave it? Where would we go to find anything like that? Anything like that grace?
Well, I understand what you were just saying about people leaving a practice. I don't see it as necessarily a negative thing, because you have such a great love of Islam that you can't imagine anybody leaving it. But I think that would be similarly said of somebody, for instance, in one of the religious orders in Catholicism, or Protestantism, where they leave. I think people are, as long as they're pursuing it for the right reasons, not because they just don't want to do it anymore. Hopefully, it isn't because they've fallen into a negative trap of some sort. Addictions is a very a common reason for that sort of thing happening. But if they're doing it because it's just not the right spiritual path for them, and they've moved on to perhaps find where they really do need to belong, because I've had that experience myself, and I have many friends who also have that journey. But it's nice to meet somebody like yourself who has such a deep and profound love for your faith, because you're the type of person that can best represent it, and that's why you're here. I'd like to know, is there anything else you'd like to add to what we've talked about now? I'm sure you have other things that you want to read, maybe even a prayers that you would like to do. But if there's any, because there are other things that were coming to me, and unfortunately, that they come into my mind and then they go while I'm listening to you. Maybe it'd be best if you just
I have
go
something
ahead.
to offer. Okay, relating to the last question, and then we'll go from there. Okay, now it could be that someone was brought up in a religion in which a darker side was projected, a painful dimension was transmitted, and it could be discussed in the context of the word compulsion. They may have been compelled to do it without understanding from within their own heart and soul the beauty, the grace in it. And they may be reacting to that compulsion by walking away from it, maybe for a time, and then hopefully coming back in a different way. I want to just address it like that. Now, in the case of my teachers, exalted as they have been, they have all been manifestations of divine mercy. So at every stage of my evolution spiritually, the path has been revealed as light upon light. We say in Arabic, Nuran ala Nur, and also love within love. And I think that it's very important for those who have received the grace, I've said that before, from the source of grace, to transmit it in a non-compulsory way. That is, to share it as love from the beloved, and love that leads us back to the beloved, as opposed as different than something that is compelling you to do something that you may not understand why you have to do it. You're forced into it. So neither has anyone ever treated me that way in the Islamic context, nor would I ever want to do that. I think this is a realm of grace, and as you enter more and more deeply, let's say that every time you read a passage of the Quran that becomes illuminated for you, that is a light upon light. That is what we are here to learn from. Equally, when we say in the beginning of a passage in the Holy Quran is, except for one, it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. And so let's keep that as our motto, the opening of the door that we're going through time and time again. And then the harsher side of the way that life goes, where someone is forcing another person to do something, is not within the context of our experience. Instead, we go deeper and deeper into the mercy, the compassion, and the other divine qualities. As much as we do that, our consciousness is expanded and uplifted. And it's an ascension, step by step, an ascension into the divine presence. I think that's very crucial for us to understand when we, in any way that we address this subject. That is, as we express it relating to our own experience and share it with our beloved companions on the journey. Those that, and I was just at the Philadelphia flower show. I had a booth there, and the beauty of the people coming into the booth was just amazing, and their responsiveness to the energy that was in the booth. Now, I've been doing business for 40 years also, and it's just like that. My business is called Treasures from the Silk Road, okay? And so that's the way it is, this kind of business it's a treasure. It's a treasure to be passed on, and the people on the Silk Road, traders throughout the ages, they would set up they would go on their camels. I have a van. They take everything on the camelback, set it up in one oasis or another. And then as the people come to buy the goods, the knowledge is also shared. The wisdom and grace are shared. Okay? And so that's a lifestyle that we have that I love. I love it. And I, even in late, more recent years, that's in the last, as we spoke of in our last interview, the last few months, I've just been going from one holy place to another, and everywhere we find the worshipers, both worshiping to the one and only God and loving the one another for the sake of God. This is like really a deep way of sharing love above and in life itself, to share it with the source, receive more and more blessings from God, and then care for every being created by that one. If there's any way we can help, we want to. If they're hungry, let us give them food. If they're lonely, let's become friends. If they're lost and disturbed and they don't know where they are, let's listen to them. That's what I do. I send out my telephone number freely, that people in the middle of the day or night can call and go through their own process of healing. It's a healing process. And I want to be present as a witness and instrument of their healing and not charge for it. No charge, free of charge. This is a sharing. And every step that you take to help another being uplifts your condition. Now, we also, your condition of understanding, of wisdom, of love. And there's a teaching that tells us that everyone that you help on your journey through this life the blessings from that person's evolution, of that person's liberation from difficulty, will go ahead of you to the next world and will be a provision for us all there. And we're not doing it to get something out of it. That's just how it is. That as much as you can help another, that will be your provision in paradise, hopefully, in the world of the eternal oneness with our Creator.
Yeah, it's while you were talking, so many thoughts came to me. Some of the things you were saying were actually echoes of the Sermon on the Mount, and to hear them come out of you with your own particular intention on them was kind of a special, because I mean, maybe some of the other viewers may have picked up on it as well. And the other thing I'd like to address, hopefully we've done it already significantly enough, but I'd like to make sure that we dispel the onus around the word jihad, because I really would like to make sure that my audience and anybody else that happens to be to come upon this video truly understands what jihad means in your use of the word, and in the word that I believe the Prophet Muhammad intended it. Because, and if you care to share why it's been distorted and how they're able to do it in that way, or maybe leave that for another talk. But is there anything you can add about that?
First of all, the phrase is inner jihad. Our war is not with anyone else. Our
Gotcha.
war is with the forces within us that need to be sent out, to need to be discarded, to be disempowered. And when you come, as you're a journeyer on the path, you can come to know what is like that in you. What part of you is focused on anxiety, anger, resentment, all those things, okay? And that would fight with another person for any reason whatsoever. There's nothing that justifies that on the path of light. It's something that needs to be the forces within us that you see on the outside, which are darker, which are warlike, need to be dispelled from us. We need to be liberated from those forces. That's the jihad that was greatly encouraged by the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all the messengers. They all are coming without any conflict between them, bringing the truth, bringing the path of peace. When we say Islam is peace, so is that path brought by all the messengers. And in order to get to peace, you have to cleanse your heart of everything that's not peaceful, such as fear, anger, anxiety, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you say it is. It matters how it feels, how it affects you. Now, if the more that we consider, some people would say, oh, I have to fast the whole month. Oh, I don't think I can do it, or whatever else. And that's a kind of anxiety. It's a kind of doubt. But the more you say, I believe that I can do it, because I've already seen that it's not problematic. It's not really a problem. It's something that the more I believe in God, the more He gives me the strength to do what He has asked me to do, what He has guided us to do. He gives us the ability to do it. So now, what is the process of strengthening our higher level of consciousness and faith and light is what's called the inner jihad. It's to cleanse ourselves, purify ourselves of everything else. Then that showering, illumination that is being bestowed upon us by the one of infinite mercy. So, but we're not there yet. We haven't arrived at a place where there's nothing negative in us. That's the process we're in. And I say to God every day, repeatedly, purify our hearts and souls and bodies and minds that we may truly serve Thee. Just keep saying words like that and then meaning them, asking for purification and receiving it. Let it be revealed at each stage of the journey. It may come it may manifest differently for us. This very practice of being purified for the sake of returning to the source in a way that is both pleasing and pleases us. That which pleases us more and more deeply, and most of all, pleases God. And the reason that we are pleased is because God's blessing is increasing. We feel that grace coming as we let go of everything else. You let go of the anger, you feel the peace, and the charity, the love for other beings, instead of thinking, I'm here to fight. No, we didn't come here for that. And that includes our neighbors, loving our neighbors who are not necessarily understanding Islam as we do, but the way that they come to know more about it is by the way we interact with each other. The more love that we share, the more they know that Islam is love, the true Islam that we are following. And it goes on to each other dimension of when you, as you're reading the Quran and you're understanding what it means to you, as that's happening, you are being transformed by those words, by those teachings. We say, inshallah, God willing.
Well, Sheikha, I'm so thrilled that you took the time to do this. If it comes up that you want to do something additional during Ramadan to share with us your experiences, I would certainly be open to it. I don't know what kind of comments we'll leave, but if somebody has questions and we feel that it is necessary to do another show, I am certainly open to it. I thought it was wonderful, but I know that there's so much that we could talk about. Things came up in our conversation that we really had never discussed, and you and all my followers know, the channel is called The Bridge of Truth. And one of the fundamental teachings of my study of energy is that regardless of your path, there is true and false in all things. And I hope today that we've been able to share the truth of your faith and to encourage other people to search for the truth in theirs. Because in this country in particular, from my experience, our faith, the Judeo-Christian faith, is also being manipulated and misused. Passages are being used in ways that I don't believe that God or Jesus intended, and I'm sure that you would say that that's the same case with the Quran. So thank you again. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or perhaps a closing prayer?
Yes, both things. Yes. I want to have you post my phone number.
Yes,
and
it'll be in the it'll be in the comments below in the description.
And I want to encourage people to call if they want to talk and share or ask anything, because that's what we're here for. That's one thing I would say clearly. I'm not focusing at all on what anyone else is doing in the context of what is called, in quotes, Islam. 9/11 was a certain period of time where people were focusing more on that, misunderstanding. And I found in my own journey, first of all, I always keep my head covered. But someone has told me that made a lot of, really touched my heart. He said, this head covering is a mantle of light that has fallen upon your head from heaven. Okay, so I wear it like that. It's a light that envelops me and protects me too. It protects my mind as well. Okay, now the point is that my experience is almost entirely positive with the journey, because the way in which I've learned things has been so positive. And then when I see outside that, like in 9/11, I had just come back in that period of time. I was a Muslim, but nobody bothered me. No one ever treated me the way they say that you would treat someone who was from the dark side. In fact, it's always been light upon light. And that's what we want to focus on. Anything can be misinterpreted by anyone who has some alternative agenda. So what we want to stay focused on is the source of mercy and love, peace, and wisdom, etc. And understanding that God alone is the source of all that, and that every time we pray and every time we fast and whatever we do for the sake of God, there's a transmission coming to us from the source that brings us closer to the source and to our own true nature. So that's what we would say, and that's what I do say and what I do feel. I know that even when I'm in the supermarket, the connections are made with beautiful souls everywhere. That's my experience. Okay?
Okay, Sheikha Maryam, I'd really love to have you finish our discussion now with a special prayer for all of us at this time.
Yes. At this moment in our collective life of humanity, there are many, many people enduring unfathomable challenges. And they are our brothers and sisters. They are our fellow beings. You know, we can't speak about life on earth without feeling them wherever they are and praying for them. So when we make a prayer, it's not a prayer for you and me. It cannot be a prayer for just us. It has to expand across the worlds. And we must love all lives as our own. As we are feeling what they're going through, we have to keep our prayers flowing like a river, like an ocean of light across the planet. As Allah is truly protecting each and every one, and yet they need love. They need the love of their fellow beings to embrace them. And as we would we not, if we were going through what they were going through now, what they are going through with earthquakes and floods and war and all the other challenges, hunger, and all that, whatever could possibly be happening that we can't imagine, we need to pray for those beings. You know, send love to everyone, that though only God knows where they are and who they are and what they're going through. So that we've always begin and end with prayers, and now it's even more important to realize that these prayers are for all those beings that are our human family, wherever they may be and whatever they're going through. When we hear about it, when we see it, we know that we need to be involved. I'm also working with an organization called Embrace Relief that for the last 15 years has been sending many forms of charity to people across the world, as they are doing now in Turkey and Syria. So, and we ask Allah to enable us to be of service to as many people as we can, both financially, but also in terms of love and the power of prayer. Let the power of prayer spread across the earth, and then enter the hearts and souls, and especially including those that you know who are going through very deep challenges, which we hear about on a daily basis. They may not be in one of those countries, and yet they're really being challenged, and as you have been. So when we are, contemplating prayer and practicing it, it must embrace the lives of one another. I say that to you personally because of the losses that you've suffered in the last few months. So as I pray the Fatiha and some other du'as, I want it to go right to you, into your heart and soul, and into those that have gone back to God so recently in your family. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim wala dallin. Amin. Ya Allah, most merciful, beloved Lord, may your love rain down upon all your creations. May your grace free the hearts and souls of pain, sorrow, despair, and fill the hearts with your love and light. Restore your preachers in guidance, through guidance of the path that you wish each one to follow, and that their hearts will be uplifted by your love and light, that we then will be more and more capable of understanding both life and death and life beyond death, the eternal life. May we learn how to die before death in a temporal sense and live forever in your eternal light. Amin, Amin, Ya Rabbil Alameen, O Lord of all the worlds. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin, al-Fatih lima uglaka, wal-Hatim lima sabaka, Nasrul Haqi bil-Haq, wal-Hadi ila siratul mustaqim, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi haqqa qadrihi wa miqdarihil azim. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun alal mursalin, walhamdu lillahi rabbil alamin. Amin, Amin, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace and blessing be upon everyone. Alhamdulillah.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you agreed to do this and we had the opportunity and to share your message with, hopefully a lot of people get to see this. I think it would mean a lot to them. The things that you had to say about the people that are suffering. It is happening to everyone, irrespective of your religion, irrespective of your economic situation, irrespective of nationality. We are going through things, and to be able to find spiritual solace is a wonderful thing that you've been able to contribute today. So thank you, Sheikha. And when Ramadan is over, I hope we can do that Q&A. I'm sure there's an awful lot of people that would love to be able to communicate with you directly during the course of, and I'm going to get this thing posted tonight. I'll send you the link, and this way it's out there, and give people an opportunity to benefit from everything that you've said. Thank you so much.
And we do not have to wait, Al, we do not have to wait until Ramadan is over. That if there's an interest in sharing more in the context of Ramadan, that is certainly a worthy concern, and that is part of what we do in Ramadan.
Sure.
We share
I was just,
Okay.
I was concerned about making sure that we could do something live that wouldn't interfere with your observance. But if you feel that we can do it, absolutely, I'll make myself available, and I would love to do that. The more of this kind of information that's put out there, the benefit is only more positive. So thank you again, Sheikha, and to all my friends and followers, viewers today. May all your journeys be truthful on the bridge of truth.
Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen.